Hey folks, it's another recorded video from West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. As you know, I am a very, very big Leeds United fan, and so I just thought that with a day to go before Leeds kick off the new season, I just thought I'd do a quick start of the season preview of Leeds United, how the squad's looking at the moment, um, and where I think we need to strengthen while the transfer window is still open. So that's who's been given a squad number for this season. The squad numbers have only got released either yesterday or this morning. And the first positive that really stands out for me is the fact that we've not lost quite a few key players. The ones that are standing out for me, we could quite easily have lost the likes of Jack Harrison, Tyler Adams, Luis Sinistera, Wilfred Nonto. Just to name a few that could have left, and at this stage they haven't. So that's vital, really. Yes, a few of those that I've just mentioned are injured, but once they get back to full fitness, then there's some players in this squad that are going to absolutely rip up this division. The quality of the Championship is not that of the Premier League, and some of these players, they prove to be quite decent, but just not up for the fight and not up for the challenge. And the ones that really weren't up for the challenge are the ones that have since been sent out on loan and are no longer with the squad. I'll just point this out very early on here. The one senior player who did come back to training, who does not have a squad number, is Helder Costa. The Portugal winger was signed from Wolves for about £15 million initially on loan a few seasons ago, and then it was made permanent for that 15 million figure. Was a very expensive signing at the time. Had a fairly decent first couple of seasons with Leeds, but then as soon as Leeds bought Rafinha, Costa was nowhere near of the same standard. And since then, Costa's never featured for Leeds since. He's since had a couple of loan spells out at the club. And so with the fact he's not got a squad number, I think that Helder Costa will be either sold, loaned out, or they might even come to a mutual termination of his contract. The fact that he's not got a squad number, and yet he is, certainly age-wise, a senior player in the squad, suggests that he's on his way out. It wouldn't surprise me if he left, put it that way. So, a couple of surprises for me. I would have thought that Junior Firpo would have gone by now. I think that he is injured at the moment, and so therefore clubs have decided not to come in for him. There was talks that Real Betis were going to come in and possibly take him on either on loan or as a permanent. Once he gets back to full fitness, it would not surprise me if that still ended up being the case. I don't see Junior Firpo featuring this season. He was one of the players who struggled quite a lot in the Premier League, and I know I mentioned just a moment ago that there's quite a difference between Premier League and Championship, but I just don't think the style of English football is suited to Junior Firpo. I think he would be better suited going back to Spain. A couple of other surprises in the squad. It surprises me that Daniel James hasn't been moved on. He's featured quite prominently in the friendlies. But for me, apart from one or two moments of really good stuff, when comparing him to the likes of Sinistera, for example, he's nowhere near. For me, you know, I, I have a feeling that Daniel James will probably feature for this club this season. Me personally, I would prefer to keep our other wingers, and I would prefer for the club to try and sell Daniel James on to bring a few quid in and maybe give us some funds to be able to add one or two new players. In terms of new signings, we have signed Ethan Ampadu, the number 4 there. He can play either defensive central midfield or he can play centre back. However, in pre-season he has played defensive central midfield and he's looked very good. Can't lie. We've signed him for about 7 million quid, and he does look a good signing. I wasn't too sure what to make of him when he signed, especially for the price. He's still only about 22, 23, so he's still quite young, but he has had quite a lot of football early on in his career. He is a full Wales international as well. He, for me, looks like a direct replacement for Adam Forshaw, and if he can show that he can do the basics as well as Forshaw did, then we've got a good player here. And if he provides a little bit of extra quality on top of that, then that's a more than adequate replacement. And quite frankly, I think that, it's only based on pre-season, but Ampadu's shown signs that he could be one of the best defensive central midfielders in the division this season. So, time will tell with that, but a good signing. We've replaced Joel Robles with number 28, Carl Darlow. He's been a perennial second choice keeper for most of the clubs that he's been at. He did have a loan spell for half of the season last season with Hull. Did alright from what I can tell, and certainly adds certainly some experience to the goalkeeping lineup. As you can see there, we've still got the relatively young Illemelier, Christopher Klassen and Danny van den Heuvel. So it was quite important to bring in an experienced goalkeeper. I personally would prefer Melier to be the number 1 in terms of who starts, but certainly in Darlow we've signed an adequate backup, no doubt about that. The fee for Darlow as well was rumoured to be just 400,000, which, he's a 32-year-old backup goalkeeper. I what are you going to do? I think it's a good deal all around, really. So yeah, not bad that. But as I say, as a backup, I don't. Darlow could do a job. I just don't know whether I see him as a number 1 goalkeeper. But time will tell. And then the third signing that we've literally just confirmed as of this morning is the return of Sam Byram, number 25. Sam started his career at Leeds United. Not actually born in Yorkshire, but came through the youth ranks at Leeds. Was sold on. He's had spells at West Ham and Norwich. Struggled with injuries for a lot of his career. However, in pre-season, he's looked very good. But originally he was a right back. He's actually been played at left back this season. Well, this pre-season, I should say. Now, whether he will be able to start games or if he's going to be used as kind of like a second choice, only time will tell. But from what I've seen of Byram, solid. Very solid. The biggest concern for most people will be whether he can stay fit. But if we can keep Sam Byram fit, then for a free transfer, you can't really go wrong with it. And he's only signed a 1-year deal, so there's no risk to Leeds in that sense. I don't think his wages will be through the roof. I think he just wanted an opportunity to play. He has played under our new manager Daniel Farke at Norwich, so I think that definitely had a bearing on Byram coming back. it's a bit of a surprise signing. I don't think many people thought for a minute that we would actually, give him another chance after he left. But a decent addition, a decent addition. I don't see a problem with it. As I say, free transfer, low risk as far as Leeds are concerned, and potentially very good reward if we can keep him fit and he can keep his performance levels up. So that concludes the signings. As I say, there are only 3 signings made so far. I was hoping for 2 or 3 more, but I would rather the club sign quality than just sign quantity for the sake of signing quantity. If we're not going to use the likes of Helder Costa, then what's the point of having quantity? We need to have quality. If we're going to get straight back to the Premier League again at the first attempt, it's got to be quality over quantity. It has to be. Now, the one thing that really stands out about this squad is how young it is. You'll see that probably half the squad are of the age of about 23 or younger. There's some really good young prospects in this squad. Charlie Cresswell, number 5. His previous squad number at Leeds was 35, so you can see how high the squad or the management regard Charlie for the fact that they've trusted him with a low squad number there. I think he is the successor or the eventual successor to Liam Cooper in terms of potential future captaincy. He's captained the Leeds under-18s and Leeds under-23s as it was at the time, now the under-21s. He's had a loan spell at Millwall where he did well. So there's every opportunity that Cresswell could feature. In terms of his challenges for getting into the first 11, obviously Captain Liam Cooper, Pascal Struijk, number 21, he's still at the club. On his day, still a very decent centre back. And dependent on where Leo Hjelde is played, because Hjelde has been used in pre-season as a left back, but predominantly was signed as a centre back. So I would say that Cresswell is probably challenging for one of the centre back spots with Pascal Struijk. However, it's questionable as to whether Cooper will be able to last the season, with it being 46 games instead of 38. So there's a possibility of Struijk and Cresswell, which is a really promising young centre-back pairing, depending on how things go. Other young players, number 22, Archie Gray, could well make his debut in the first team. He's been on the bench a couple of times as an unused sub, has been a real standout player for the under-23s and under-21s, and then the under-18s previously to that. He's still a teenager, he's still very young, very raw, but he is part of the Gray dynasty, and you can tell the kid's got a lot of potential. He's going to have to be heavily protected because he was injured for part of last season. But what a prospect! Looks very, very promising midfielder does Archie Gray. I'm also pleased that the club have kept hold of Jamie Shackleton, number 17. Shax has played in both central midfield and at right back in pre-season, and has looked equally adept in both. Him and Ampadu looked an extremely good partnership in some of the pre-season matches. Very, very promising indeed. I mean, what you get with Shackleton is, he's low centre of gravity. He's got pace. Works his backside off for the team. He never stops running, never stops chasing down, and can be very creative at times as well. Good little bit of trickery about him. If he gets played on the right hand side, he will overlap the wing with the winger, and he will provide an outlet. If he's in central midfield, he's a good passer of the ball, and not afraid to put in a tackle. So yeah, I'm pleased that Shackleton stayed on now. This could be Shackleton's breakout season. Depending on how things go. One of the surprise young players in pre-season was Ian Poveda. What a pre-season he's had. And again, it is only pre-season. They're only friendlies. But he's been tried out on the wing and in the number 10 position, and Poveda's looked excellent. Really good. He's slipped a couple of times when trying to do certain things, but then when he's got control of the ball and got the balance, he's been terrifying defenders. So having Poveda back and looking sharp, could be very, very good. It'd be like having a new player, and he's still just in his early 20s, like Shackleton. So, good, still good potential. Again, this has to be a season. It has to be like a breakout season for Poveda, kind of like a now or never kind of thing, really, in terms of his Leeds career. But yeah, nobody expected anything of Poveda in pre-season, and he's really stepped up to the plate. So fair play to him. Hope he has a great season. Wilfred Gnonto, I'm surprised we've still got him. The only interest that's come about so far is rumoured to be Everton, but they can't afford anyone, and they certainly can't afford Gnonto. There's rumours that they put in about 15 million. He's worth double that. He's still only 19 years old. He's a full Italy international. The ceiling of potential is literally through the roof, really, with Gnonto. He could become a world class winger in a few years' time, and realistically, unless a club comes in and bids around 30 million or more, I don't think Gnonto's going anywhere. Gnonto has had a bit of a stop-start pre-season, but he did look somewhere close to his best in our final pre-season game against Hearts. Started looking a little bit sharper, a little bit more back to his best. At his best, very much like Sinisterra, very much like Harrison when he gets fully fit and back to his best. Wingers of that quality, and maybe even Somerville gets into that bracket. Wingers of that quality should be way too good for this division. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are on paper. You have to perform. You have to prove that you are as good as you made out to be. So this applies for every player in the squad at every club. This isn't just a Leeds thing. This has to be at any club. If you're going to show your potential and show your quality, you have to do it on the day. It's as simple as that. But yeah, in terms of Gnonto, again, him, Sinisterra, Somerville and Harrison. That's 4 very high quality wingers. And at the moment, we're going to need them because we've got a bit of a striker crisis. Patrick Bamford is currently injured. Jorginho Rutter is also injured, and unfortunately, youngster Matteo Joseph is also injured. So that's 3 strikers out. The next recognised striker in the squad really is number 30, Joe Gallart. He can play as a 9 or a 10. I personally think that he should probably start as the number 9 against Cardiff on Sunday, purely because we haven't got anyone else. We could use number 16 Sonny Perkins if he's available, but again, he's not really featured in pre-season, hasn't Perkins? So it's really between Gallart and Perkins, I think, for the number 9. Purely because based on these squad numbers, we haven't really got anyone else. I don't think the club's going to sign anyone before the transfer before the Cardiff game. They should sign someone before the transfer window shuts, I would imagine. We are rumoured to be interested in Joel Perreault, who would be a very good signing at this level. 40 goals in 80 games, there or thereabouts, over 2 seasons is a very good return for any striker. So I would be very keen for him to come in. There are rumours that Gustavo Hamer at Coventry is also another one that could be a very good number 10. Again, knows how to chip in with goals and assists. So, but again, to get these kind of players in, we're going to have to spend big money. And to stick with financial fair play, I don't know if we've got the money to do so. We've got the money to do so in terms of the 49ers. The money they're pumping into the club is enough to make these transfers, but we have to stay financially sensible. In other words, we've got to sell to be able to buy. Now, this is where, if we were to sell players maybe like Daniel James, Cody Drameh, who my own personal opinion, I don't want anywhere near Leeds United, but I've made my feelings very clear on Cody Drameh over this pre-season. He's currently injured anyway. But players like that could bring in a few million quid and ultimately, could potentially give us the money that we need to be able to make a couple of quality signings. There does seem to be a bit of an injury problem at Leeds United at the moment. Sam Greenwood is another young player who, again, in his early 20s, he is another one who's injured at the minute. He could potentially have been a starter up front. He did used to be a striker. He's kind of been converted into more of a midfielder in recent times, but he's another one that could have been used, but again, he's injured. So, in short, if you look at those vacant squad numbers, and you don't really base very much on squad numbers anymore, but the fact that 7, 8 and 14 are still available would suggest that this might suggest that the club are potentially looking at anything up to a maximum of maybe 3 new signings before the transfer window shuts. It would be very unlikely, certainly for numbers 7 and 8 to be left vacant, and possibly 14 as well. The numbers after that, between 31 and 50, I mean, they're lottery numbers, aren't they, really? There's a possibility that we might get 1 or 2 breakout players from the under-21s who might feature maybe up to the bench if they perform well in the under-21s. There are some very good youngsters coming through, but again, we're in a season where we really need to look to push for automatic promotion again. In the words of Angus Kinnear, who's still on the board at Leeds United, we're not dicking around with the playoffs. That was his words. Let's hope that his words are true for this season coming as well. So in terms of general squad depth, goalkeepers, no problem. Meslier, Klassen and Darlow, absolutely fine at this level if we end up keeping them all. Right backs, let's go full backs in general. We've got Luke Ayling, who could have a very important season. His experience, very much like Cooper, will be vital to help guide these younger players. Junior Firpo, I don't think is going to be at Leeds. Once he gets fully fit, I think he's out. Other fullbacks, then you've got 25 Sambaram, who I think if we can keep him fit could play a pivotal role at fullback. I think he'll be quite an important player this season. Leo Hjelde, as I say, he's covered at left back, but very much like how Pascal Strout tried to cover at left back last season, he's not a fullback. He's a centre back. He's adequate, just to do a job and fill in at left back. But personally, if we're going to use Leo, his strength is at centre back. But again, Leo's got such a task to get ahead of the centre backs that are ahead of him, really. But again, very good cover to have. And then finally, Cody Drameh, who I don't think he'll be at Leeds come the end of this transfer window. Moving on to centre back. I don't think we're too bad at centre back, if I'm honest. If they can play to the best of their abilities, I think we'll be all right. I don't think that Farke is going to use a back 3, which to me then would mean that we've got enough we've got enough at centre back. Liam Cooper, club captain, great leadership. He has got a mistake in him, but you can't argue with the leadership quality that he's got and his experience. Now he's been at the club a long time. Charlie Cresswell, as you can see at number 5 there, this really could be his proper breakout season at Leeds United. He'll be vital at centre back. Pascal Strout, as I say, is still very solid at this level. And then Leo Hiale. And then there's the youngster Diogo Montero, who came in part way through, I think it was last season, and did all right in the under 21s, looked quite decent. But I don't see Montero featuring this season. If I'm honest, he's got a squad number. Fair play to him. You know, a good young backup if we need him. You know, there's other backup defenders like Chris Moore and Jeremiah Mullin who haven't even been given a squad number. So the fact that Montero has and they haven't, I think is quite telling. But I don't know, we'll see. Moving on to midfield, Ampadu going to be so vital this season. You know, he looks in good shape and certainly looks ready for the season ahead. Tyler Adams, I mean, he was one of the very few players last season who did look very good for us, and we lost all positivity in our performances when Adams got injured. If we can get Adams fit, and if he's willing to stay, and if he can perform to the level that he performed last season, I mean, him and Ampadu could be an absolute monster of a defensive central midfield partnership. As I say, in the meantime, I'll be very confident if Shackleton plays there next to Ampadu. But yeah, I mean, potentially once we get Adams back, I mean, wow, you know, I mean, he is the current captain of USA. You know, he's got that leadership skill that could be very vital in our attempts to get promoted. Stuart Dallas is a bit of a versatile player. He can play fullback, winger, central midfield. So, firstly he's got to get fit again, which is going to take a long time. It'll be interesting to see where Farkas sees him as a player once he gets back to fitness. And then the other central midfielder that kind of features in this list is Darko JB. Didn't have the best of pre-seasons, if I'm honest. But again, he's another one who could potentially, maybe feature in the cup games and might even get a squeeze in the first team. I think that the likes of JB and Gray and Lewis Bate as well, I think that they will be used sparingly. Sam Greenwood as well, perhaps, once he gets back to fitness. Again, it really depends on whether Greenwood's used as a midfielder or a striker or somewhere in between. But I do feel that those boys will be used a little bit more sparingly compared to the likes of Adams and Shackleton and Ampadu. I think in Adams, Shackleton and Ampadu, I think we've got 3 very, very good central midfielders there. And then the young backups will be absolutely fine. It's in terms of youth backup, it's one of our strongest areas. It looks very, very good, to be fair. On the wings, we've got, as I mentioned, Luis Sinisterra, who, if we can keep fit, should annihilate this division. Jack Harrison, for me, one of the best ball control wingers that England has. Way too good for this division. And again, if he gets fit, I mean, that's it's such a good winger to have if we can keep him. And then, as I say, Wilfred Gnonto, full Italy international. I mean, I don't need to say any more on that one. And then Crescencio Somerville, who I think he's got potential to become a Dutch international. Needs to show a bit more about his game, but in terms of his potential at the moment and what he's produced for Leeds in the past, a lot of potential there. And then, as I say, the other wingers at the club, Daniel James, as I say, I'm still surprised that he's at the club. If the other wingers were fit, I don't think James would be here. I think we would have sold him. Um, and then, as I say, Ian Poveda, you know, can be played either as a 10 or as a winger. I mean, as I say, he's I never thought I'd be saying this right now, that Poveda might have a chance of actually featuring in the squad this season. I never thought I'd be saying that. But fair play to the kid. You know, he's if he keeps his head down, keeps working hard, Poveda can be very useful this season. And then on to strikers or number 10s. It's crucial that we get Bamford fit. If Patrick Bamford could just have another season of being fit, he's going to get at least double figures in goals. He holds up the ball well, leads the line, brings other players into play, you know, all of the creative wingers and whatnot. He just lacks that bit of composure sometimes. You know, and that's the reason that Bamford hasn't gotten himself a move to like a top 10 Premier League club, because he aside from his fitness issues, he's just not quite clinical enough. But at this level, should be more than comfortable of scoring quite a few goals this season if we can get him fit. In terms of other strikers, then, as I say, if Greenwood gets fit, he could be a striker. Really depends on where Farke sees him as a player. Rutter has featured quite a bit in pre-season. I just feel that Rutter is a little bit off the pace. I don't know if it's a lack of actual pace or a lack of fitness. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. I just don't know what Jorginho Rutter brings to the Leeds team at the moment. He has to prove himself sooner rather than later. Forget the fact that he was bought for a huge fee. That's not Jorginho's fault. But realistically, he's got to show why we bought him and why we bought him for so much money. So this is a good opportunity for Rutter if he can get fit. But as I say, he's another one who's injured right now. Joe Gallagher had a loan spell at Sunderland last season. We've seen potential in Gallagher for some time now. This again could be a bit of a breakout season for Gallagher. He can play as a 9 or a 10. He plays better when he's part of a two-striker partnership up front. But the way that Farke plays his teams, I don't think that's going to be the case. And so, with all of the injuries we've got, Gallagher is currently the fittest striker we have. So I would imagine he'll probably start up front. As I say, the other options are Mateo Joseph, who again is injured, and then obviously Sonny Perkins has been given a squad number, so maybe Perkins might even, at the very least, might be in the squad for the game against Cardiff, but he hasn't really featured in pre-season. Not very much, anyway. So there you have it, folks. As I say, just a very brief preview of the season to come. Just a quick touch on the manager. Daniel Farke, German former Norwich manager, has had 2 promotions with Norwich from the Championship to the Premier League. That experience is vital. I think that out of everyone that was available, I do feel that Farke was possibly the best appointment in the end. We do need to get a couple more players in. The good thing about what's happened with Farke is that he has been allowed to bring in his own staff. We've got a new goalkeeping coach, and he's been able to bring in his assistant manager and his first team coach as well. So he's got a backroom staff that he can trust. We've got a takeover that's happened that, from a financial point of view, sets Leeds United up really well for the next few years. Again, we have to stay within the financial fair play and all that rubbish. But I think the future is bright for Leeds United. I think that we will have a good season. The aim definitely is automatic promotion as a bare minimum, the top 6. And with the quality we've still got in the squad, I don't see us finishing out of the top 6. I do see us having a very good chance of winning the league. But I do feel that, if those squad numbers are anything to go by, 7, 8 and 14 are going to be taken up, by the time that transfer window shuts. Who those players will be is anyone's guess. As I say, there is the possibility of the likes of Hamer, Perot. Um, you know, there might be one or two others that. There wasn't any rumours that we were signing Ethan Ampadu. That came out of the blue completely, really. So it could be someone that hasn't even been mentioned in the press. And if that's the case, great. Bring them on if they're good. If they're going to add quality to the squad we've got, then bring it on. As I say, I'm certain Helder Costa, with him not getting a number, is going to be sold or released. It wouldn't surprise me if Cody Drameh is sold. It wouldn't surprise me if Daniel James is sold. And it wouldn't surprise me if Junior Firpo goes. Those are the three players that I think will leave. But I think everyone else in the squad, at least currently, at least up until January, I think the rest of the squad will stay. I'm going to put that out there now. I think the rest of the squad will stay. I think those three will go. And in terms of the season going forward, I think we'll do well. I think we'll have a good season. We know that we're going to be coached well. I think the quality of the squad is good enough. It is still a little bit imbalanced. I would like to see some more quality, all around really. Just to give us a bit more balance in the squad. And another striker is vital. A decent left back is important. There have been rumours of us looking at bringing Charlie Taylor back, who's currently at Burnley. I'd take Taylor. I wasn't impressed with how both him and Byram left the club, but Byram's come back and has looked very good. Taylor could do the same. This isn't about what's happened in the past. This is about bringing in the quality that can help Leeds United to get promoted. And I think that Taylor could be the answer to the left back situation. So again, we'll have to see. We will have to see what comes through and who gets bought or loaned in. I do have a fear that we've got to, sell or loan out before we can actually buy in. We are allowed one more loan out to a European club. To all those other players that have gone out on loan so far, I don't think there's a door back. I don't think there's an entrance back for those into Leeds United. I think the bridges have been burned now with those players. Obviously shown no fight and no desire to help Leeds get back into the Premier League, despite the fact that they're the ones that helped Leeds get relegated. It's a funny old world, football, isn't it, really? I don't particularly want to see any of those players back at Leeds. They've shown their true colours in a lack of fight, in my opinion, and just a lack of desire to actually, right the wrongs, of last season. But as I say, once the injured players come back to full fitness, I think we have a good squad. There's some obvious quality there. There's 3 or 4 players there who are definitely Premier League quality. It's all about their fitness, and this is the problem, and this is why we are not generally the favourites to go back up again with the majority of YouTube content creators. There's 1 or 2 that do think we'll win it. There's quite a few that do think we'll get second place. There's been some that have even had us outside of the top 6, which I think is bonkers. I just think the squad generally is too good to be out of the top 6, and that when you look at the manager we've got, everyone's saying, a lot of them saying Leicester to go up because of the quality of the players. You've got an unproven manager at Leicester. Anything could happen with him, and if Maresca doesn't prove himself, then Leicester could get off to a very shaky start. So nothing. Here's my primary take on all of this. Nothing is guaranteed in the Championship. Nothing. It's not a definite that Leeds will get promoted, but I do think that we have a very good chance if we keep our best players and get rid of 1 or 2 that currently really shouldn't be there. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it. Do please give the page or the channel a subscribe. Do please like the video if you've liked the content. Feel free to put your comments below. Leeds fans, what do you think of our chances this season? I'm sure we'll get opinions of other clubs that probably strongly disagree with what I've said here, but that's fine. It's all about opinion. Doesn't matter what I say or any other YouTube content creator says. It's about what these players do on the pitch and how the manager can coach them to be the best that they can be. So, hope you enjoy the season, folks.